All right, so today we're going to be looking at something that may not exactly scream exciting at first glance,
Okay.
but trust me on this one.
Right.
We're diving deep into Nextdoor's 2023 Form 10K filing,
Oh, wow.
which is basically like their annual report card
Yeah.
for investors and anyone curious about the company's inner workings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these filings
Yeah.
can be a bit dense,
A little bit.
but they're packed with insights that you won't find in like your typical news headlines.
You're not kidding.
So we're going to break it down for you
Absolutely.
and uncover what's really going on behind the scenes at Nextdoor.
Yeah.
So think of this as like a backstage pass to their strategy,
Oh, I like that.
their challenges,
Yeah.
and maybe even a glimpse into the future of your neighborhood feed.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
Right.
Yeah.
So for anyone who maybe hasn't spent their Friday night reading through a 10K,
I mean, who has?
can you give us like a quick rundown of what this document actually is and why it matters?
All right. So basically, the Form 10K is like a company's confession booth.
Ooh, I like that.
They have to lay it all out there, the good, the bad, and the we're not sure yet.
Okay.
It's full of financial statements, risk factors, management's discussion and analysis,
Okay.
like all the nitty-gritty details about their real
treasure trove of information if you know where to look.
Exactly. And that's what we're here for,
Perfect.
to help you decipher it all.
Awesome. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
We all know Nextdoor as this platform for connecting with neighbors,
Yeah.
finding lost pets,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe getting into some heated debates about parking.
Oh, yeah.
But with a whopping 88 million verified neighbors globally,
Wow.
how does that actually translate into dollars and cents?
That is the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And the 10K makes it clear advertising is their bread and butter.
Okay.
They're basically creating a hyper-local billboard
That's so interesting.
for businesses to reach you
Mm-hmm.
and everyone else in your neighborhood.
So when I see an ad for that new pizza place down the street,
Yeah,
that's Nextdoor cashing in on my scrolling habits.
you got it.
Okay. So to understand how well that's working,
Yeah.
we need to look at a couple of key metrics.
Yeah.
Weekly active users, or WAUs,
Mm-hmm.
and average revenue per weekly active user,
Or ARPU.
or ARPU. Okay, so
Well-
WAUs, that's basically how many people are hanging out on Nextdoor each week.
Exactly. More WAUs, more eyeballs on those ads.
Makes sense. Okay, what about this ARPU thing?
So ARPU tells us how much money Nextdoor is squeezing out of each of those weekly users
Okay.
on average.
Yeah.
And here's where things get interesting. In 2023, their revenue went up by 3%,
Okay.
which sounds good, but their ARPU actually decreased by 6%.
Wait, so they're attracting more users,
Right.
but making less money from each of them.
Yeah, it's a bit of a yellow flag.
That seems a little backwards.
It could mean they're having trouble converting that user growth into ad revenue.
Okay.
Maybe they need to get more creative with their ad formats. Or maybe they need to be careful about not overwhelming users with too many ads.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some Nextdoor feeds that feel like one giant ad after another.
Oh, for sure.
It kind of makes you want to tune out, doesn't it?
Exactly. Finding that balance between keeping users engaged and maximizing revenue is a tightrope walk.
Right.
And it's something we'll explore further when we dig into their challenges.
Okay.
Because let's be real, no company's journey is all sunshine and rainbows.
Speaking of challenges, the 10K doesn't sugarcoat things.
Nope.
They lay out some pretty significant risks they're facing.
Yeah,
And some of them might hit closer to home than you think.
right. And it's important to remember these aren't just abstract business problems.
So,
They could directly impact your experience on Nextdoor.
so give me an example.
Take economic uncertainty, for example.
Okay, so if the economy takes a downturn, businesses might cut back on their advertising budgets.
Exactly.
And if companies aren't paying for those hyper-local ads,
Yeah.
what happens to Nextdoor's revenue?
It could trickle down and impact their ability to invest in new features
Okay,
or even maintain the platform as it is.
that makes sense.
And remember, Nextdoor relies heavily on Google Ad Manager to serve those ads.
So they're kind of at Google's mercy.
Pretty much.
That seems risky.
It is. Imagine if Google Ad Manager experiences a major outage
Oh.
or changes its policies. It could disrupt Nextdoor's entire ad operation.
And then there's the whole competition thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like Nextdoor's the only game in town when it comes to connecting with your neighbors.
Right.
Or finding local businesses.
Not even close. They're up against giants like Meta and Alphabet who have way more resources and a massive head start.
Right.
It's a David versus Goliath situation.
Yeah, it really is.
And it makes you wonder, how can Nextdoor stand out in such a crowded space?
Well, they definitely have a dedicated user base.
They do.
But the 10K also highlights the challenge of attracting and retaining talent.
Oh, absolutely.
With all these tech companies vying for the best engineers and developers, how can Nextdoor build the team they need to compete?
That's a big one, especially since they're pouring money into growing their workforce.
Okay.
The 10K shows a significant jump in personnel-related expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just about salaries. They're also handing out a lot of stock-based compensation.
So they're giving employees a piece of the pie, literally.
Yeah.
It's a smart way to attract top talent,
Sure.
but it also adds to their expenses.
It does.
And then there's a whole content moderation
Oh, yeah.
where you're with millions of people posting on Nextdoor, keeping things civil and preventing misinformation.
Right.
Can't be easy.
It's a minefield. Think about all the posts you see about lost pets,
Right.
neighborhood drama,
Yeah.
and recommendations for local businesses. Now imagine trying to monitor all of that
Yeah.
and make sure it doesn't cross the line into harassment,
Right.
hate speech, or illegal activity.
Yeah, that sounds like a full-time job times 1,000.
At least.
And if they don't get it right,
Yeah.
they could face lawsuits or even government scrutiny.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is.
And it raises some interesting questions. How does Nextdoor decide what stays and what goes?
Right.
And how do they balance free speech
Yeah,
with creating a safe and inclusive environment for everyone?
that's a tough one.
And let's not forget about those ambitious plans for international expansion.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to be the world's neighborhood.
Right. Taking a platform that works in the U.S. and adapting it to different cultures and languages is no walk in the park.
No, it's not.
It's a whole new ballgame. They need to navigate different regulations,
Yeah.
understand local customs, and build trust in new markets.
So many challenges.
It's exciting,
Yeah.
but also incredibly challenging.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've seen how Nextdoor makes money, explored some of the hurdles they're facing, and even touched on some of the ethical dilemmas they're grappling with. But there's one piece of the puzzle we haven't fully addressed yet, those ongoing net losses.
Yeah.
Nextdoor's been operating in the red for a long time.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, can they turn things around and achieve sustainable profitability?
That's the big question. Yeah, that's the question that keeps investors up at night.
Right.
But before we jump to conclusions,
Okay.
let's dig a little deeper into how Nextdoor is actually making money.
Right.
We know advertising is their primary source of revenue.
Right.
But it's not as simple as just slapping banner ads all over the platform.
Right, because as we saw earlier, too many ads can drive users away.
Absolutely.
So how are they striking that balance
Yeah.
between keeping things user-friendly and maximizing their ad revenue?
Well, the 10K sheds some light on their strategy.
Okay.
They're focusing on attracting national brands.
Okay.
Those big names that everyone recognizes.
So instead of just seeing ads for my local dry cleaner
Yeah.
or the pizza place down the street,
Right.
I might also see ads for, say, a major car company
Exactly.
or a national retail chain.
That's the idea.
Okay.
And that's a smart move for a couple of reasons.
Okay, why?
First, it diversifies their revenue stream.
Okay.
If one industry takes a hit,
Mm-hmm.
they're not solely reliant on that sector for ad dollars.
Makes sense. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Precisely. Second landing, those big-name brands, adds legitimacy to the platform.
Oh, okay.
It shows that Nextdoor is a serious player in the advertising space,
Right.
which can attract even more local businesses.
It's like a snowball effect.
Exactly.
The more businesses they have on board, the more attractive Nextdoor becomes to users,
Yep.
which in turn attracts even more businesses.
Exactly. It's all about creating that virtuous cycle.
Okay.
But landing those national brands isn't a magic bullet.
Right.
Nextdoor still needs to prove that they can effectively convert user engagement into ad dollars.
Right, because as we saw earlier, their ARPU actually decreased in 2023.
Yep.
Even though they added more users.
And that's where things get really interesting. The 10K reveals that Nextdoor has another potential revenue stream
Oh.
they haven't fully tapped into yet.
Okay, what is it?
Email marketing.
Wait, email?
All right?
Like sending out newsletters and promotions?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have pegged Nextdoor as an email powerhouse.
I know it seems a bit old school in the age of social media,
Right.
but think about it. Nextdoor already sends you a ton of emails
Sure.
notifications about new posts, weekly digests, updates from local businesses.
And those urgent alerts that keep everyone informed during emergencies.
Right.
I've definitely come to rely on them.
Exactly. They've already got you checking your inbox.
Yeah.
So why not sprinkle in a few targeted ads while they're at it?
Okay, but that could backfire, right?
Yeah.
No one wants their inbox flooded with spam.
For sure.
Especially from a platform that's supposed to be about community.
That's the key. They have to be strategic about it.
Okay.
The 10K refers to these as emails with monetizable content.
Oh.
They're not just random ads.
So imagine, instead of just getting an alert that someone posted about a lost cat,
right,
you might get an email with a roundup of local events.
Yeah.
Recommendations for nearby businesses, or even a summary of important discussions happening in your neighborhood group.
Exactly. They're providing value to the user.
Right.
And then seamlessly weaving in a few relevant ads.
Okay.
It's a delicate dance.
It is.
But if they get it right, it could be a huge revenue driver.
And the 10K makes it clear that they're being cautious. They have the capability to serve ads in almost all of those emails with monetizable content.
Right.
But they're only doing so on a portion of them right now.
Yeah, it's like they're dipping their toes in the water, testing the temperature before diving in head first.
Yeah.
They're acknowledging the sensitivity of email marketing and trying to avoid alienating users.
Which makes sense. Nextdoor's success depends on maintaining that sense of community and trust.
Yeah.
If they start bombarding people with too many ads, they risk losing that.
Absolutely. And remember, they have those nearly 200,000 volunteer community moderators who are fiercely protective of their neighborhoods.
Right.
They wouldn't hesitate to call out any practices that feel too commercialized or intrusive.
So they're walking a tightrope, trying to balance their need for revenue with the expectations of their users.
And that tension is reflected in their financial performance.
Okay.
We've talked about the revenue growth.
Right.
And their efforts to attract national brands and explore new revenue streams like email marketing.
But they're still operating at a loss.
They are.
Those investments in growth and expansion are costing them money.
Yeah.
And it's not clear when they'll turn the corner and achieve profitability.
And that's the million-dollar question we're going to unpack in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll delve into the factors driving those expenses.
Right.
And try to decipher what it all means for Nextdoor's future.
All right, stay tuned, folks. We're about to get into the nitty-gritty of Nextdoor's financial health. All right, so we're back and ready to tackle the final piece of this Nextdoor puzzle.
The big question on everyone's mind.
Can they actually turn those losses into profits?
Well, the 10K definitely doesn't sugarcoat the fact that they've been in the red for a while now.
Right, and we talked about those rising personnel costs.
Yeah, all those stock options and benefits.
Exactly. They're clearly investing in top talent.
Which makes sense.
But it comes at a price.
It always does.
So it's not just salaries, it's also marketing, research, and development.
All those costs that come with growth.
Right. So it's like you're building this amazing house.
Yeah.
But they're still paying off the construction loan.
Exactly. And the 10K acknowledges they expect to keep operating at a loss. For the foreseeable future, at least.
So it's a gamble then?
Kind of. They're betting that those investments will pay off eventually.
With future revenue and profitability.
Exactly.
But they're not just sitting back and hoping for the best, right?
No, they're definitely taking steps.
Like what?
Remember that workforce reduction they did in late 2023?
Oh, yeah, that was a tough one.
It was, but it shows they're serious about managing expenses and finding a path to profitability.
And we talked about those new revenue streams.
Yeah, the monetized emails.
Right. If they can make that work, it could be a game changer.
For sure.
But it's all about finding that balance.
Always is.
Between investing in growth and being financially responsible.
A lot also depends on external factors, too.
Right, like the economy, the competition.
All those things they can't really control.
So what's the final verdict?
Well, if this deep dive has taught us anything, it's that there are no easy answers.
Right.
The 10K gives us a snapshot.
Yeah.
But it's not a crystal ball.
But it does give us a framework for thinking about their future.
Absolutely.
We've learned to look beyond the headlines.
Yeah, and those feel-good neighbor stories.
To ask the tough questions. Can they balance growth with profitability?
Can they beat the competition?
Can they adapt?
And ultimately, those questions are for each of us to ponder.
Right. The 10K is just the starting point.
And the jumping off point for more research and discussion.
So what do you think?
Yeah, based on what we've uncovered today.
Does Nextdoor have what it takes to really thrive?
That's the beauty of a deep dive like this.
What is that?
We're not just passively listening.
Go ahead.
We're actively engaging.
Right.
Forming our own conclusions.
Yeah.
And maybe even coming up with new questions.
That's what makes this so fascinating.
It is.
Thanks for diving deep with us. And remember, there's a whole world of information out there.
Waiting to be discovered.
Until next time, happy exploring.